She hid your children from you for 9 years while planning to be your wife. 3 days before his wedding, tech billionaire Dominic Caldwell faces the impossible. His fiancée intercepted every call, every letter, every desperate attempt from a pregnant woman. A woman who now stands in his office with photographs of 8-year-old twins. Twins with his eyes. His smile. His blood. I tried to tell you, she whispers. For months I begged your assistant to let me speak with you. That assistant is now wearing his $3 million engagement ring. The same woman who told him his ex was just looking for money when she called. The same woman who destroyed letters addressed to him in her own handwriting. The twins have been asking about their father since they could speak. Their mother finally ran out of gentle explanations for his absence. They Googled you last week, she says. They know your face. Your name. Your wedding date. He built a tech empire worth billions but missed their first steps. Their first words. Their first birthdays. What do you choose when your perfect future suddenly collides with the past you never knew existed? His wedding is in 3 days. His children have waited 9 years. Can you live with marrying someone who deliberately kept your own children from you? Have you ever had the foundations of your life crumble beneath your feet in a single moment? Has a truth so devastating ever been revealed that it made you question everything you thought you knew? This is the story of a man who had it all, until he discovered what he'd lost. The amber whiskey glowed in the crystal tumbler as Dominic Caldwell stared at the Manhattan skyline from his penthouse office. At 41, he'd built Caldwell Innovations into a $9.8 billion tech empire that had revolutionized artificial intelligence. The financial press called him ruthless, brilliant, visionary. In 3 days, he would add another title, husband. The intercom buzzed, interrupting his thoughts. Mr. Caldwell, there's a Ms. Reyes here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she's quite insistent. Dominic frowned. The name stirred something distant in his memory. Ms. Reyes? Eliza Reyes. She says it's urgent and personal. The glass nearly slipped from his fingers. Eliza. A name he hadn't heard spoken aloud in almost a decade. Send her in. The door opened, and time collapsed. Eliza Reyes stood in his doorway, more beautiful than he remembered. At 38, she carried herself with a quiet confidence that hadn't been there when he'd known her. Her dark hair fell in waves past her shoulders, and her eyes, those same deep brown eyes that had once looked at him with such love, now regarded him with cool detachment. Hello, Dominic. Eliza. This is unexpected. I'm sure it is. She remained in the doorway, as if uncertain whether to fully enter his domain. Congratulations on your engagement. It's all over the business news. Thank you. He gestured to a chair. Please, sit. She moved into the room, her simple elegance a stark contrast to the chrome and glass minimalism of his office. As she sat, he noticed the thin gold band on her right hand. Married, then. The thought stung more than it should have after 9 years. I wouldn't have come if it wasn't important, she said, her voice steady but with an undercurrent of tension. I assumed as much. What can I do for you? Eliza took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. You need to meet someone. 2 someones, actually. I don't understand. Your children, Dominic. You need to meet your children. The world stopped. Everything, the traffic noise from 40 stories below, the soft hum of the climate control, the ticking of the vintage clock on his desk, faded to silence. That's not possible. It is. And it's why I'm here. I don't have children. You have twins. A boy and a girl. They're 8 years old. Dominic felt the blood drain from his face. 8 years. That would mean. I was pregnant when you left for London. When you told me your career couldn't accommodate a relationship. The memories came flooding back, the job offer that had changed his life, the impossible choice, the painful goodbye in her tiny apartment. He'd been 29, ambitious, and terrified of failing. She'd been 27, just starting to make a name for herself as a photographer. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice was barely audible. "I tried. I called your office for weeks. Your assistant said you were unavailable. I emailed, but the address changed. I even wrote letters." Her composure slipped slightly. "By the time I realized you weren't going to respond, I was 5 months pregnant and sick with complications. I never received any calls or letters." Dominic's mind raced. "My assistant at the time. Miranda Porter. She told me you didn't want to be disturbed by your past entanglements." Miranda. His mentor's daughter, installed as his assistant to help him transition to his new role. The woman who, years later, had become his business partner and, recently, his fiancée. "She never told me you called." The implications were staggering. "Eliza, I swear to you, I didn't know." "It doesn't matter now. What matters is that Sophia and Gabriel deserve to know their father. And with your face splashed across every business magazine announcing your wedding, they've started asking questions I can no longer deflect." Sophia and Gabriel, he repeated, testing their names. His children's names. The names of 2 human beings who carried his blood, his DNA, who had been growing and learning and living for 8 years without him even knowing they existed. "They're smart, Dominic. They've Googled you. They know what you look like. They know your company. And they want to know why their father has never been part of their lives." "What have you told them?" "The truth. That we loved each other once, but your career took you away. That I tried to reach you but couldn't. That sometimes adults make choices that hurt people, even when they don't mean to." Dominic stood up abruptly, moving to the window. The city below continued its relentless pace while his carefully constructed life crumbled around him. How many times had he looked out at this view and felt satisfied, complete? How hollow that feeling seemed now. "I'm getting married on Saturday." "I know. That's why I'm here now. After your wedding, it would be complicated." "More complicated," she amended. "Does Miranda know about them?" "How could she? I haven't spoken to her since those unanswered calls 9 years ago." But the doubt had already taken root. Had Miranda known? Had she deliberately kept Eliza's calls from him? And if so, why? "I need to meet them," he said suddenly. Eliza looked surprised. "You do? They're my children. Of course I need to meet them." "It's not that simple, Dominic. They've lived their entire lives without you. You can't just walk in and expect." "I don't expect anything. But I want to know them. I have the right to know them." "Rights?" A flash of anger crossed her face. "What about their rights? The right to have a father who was there for their first steps, their first words, their first day of school." The accusation hit him like a physical blow. "I didn't know they existed. And now that you do, what's your plan? To see them once and satisfy your curiosity? To disrupt their lives for your peace of mind?" "No." He moved back to his desk, his decision already forming. "I want to be their father. In whatever capacity you'll allow." Eliza studied him, searching for sincerity or perhaps self-deception. "And Miranda? How does she fit into this new plan of yours?" The question hung between them, loaded with implications he wasn't ready to face. "I need to speak with her. I'm sure that will be an interesting conversation." Eliza stood up, reaching into her bag to withdraw a business card. "My number. Call me when you've figured out what you're going to do about your wedding and your fiancé. Then we can discuss the children." She turned to leave, but paused at the door. "They have your eyes, you know. Both of them. The exact same blue." Then she was gone, leaving Dominic alone with a card in his hand and the knowledge that somewhere in the city, 2 children with his eyes were living lives he knew nothing about. Imagine finding out you have children just days before your wedding. Children who have been wondering about you, asking about you, searching for you. If you were in Dominic's shoes, what would you do? Would you postpone everything to meet them, or keep your life on its current track? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. The next hour passed in a blur as Dominic cancelled meetings, rescheduled calls, and tried to process the revelation that had upended his world. Twins. A boy and a girl. Sophia and Gabriel. Their names repeated in his mind like a mantra as he paced his office, trying to make sense of what had happened. His phone buzzed with a text from Miranda. Dinner tonight at Le Bernardin. Wedding planner needs final approval on several items. He stared at the message, seeing the words but struggling to connect them to his new reality. Wedding plans seemed utterly trivial now. But even more troubling was the question that kept circling his mind: had Miranda known about his children all along? Had she deliberately kept them from him? No. That wasn't possible. Miranda was ambitious, calculated, sometimes cold, but she wouldn't do something so deeply unethical. Would she? He needed to know. Not just for his own peace of mind, but because he needed to understand who he was about to marry. Miranda Porter's office was 3 floors down from Dominic's, a deliberate choice she'd made when they'd moved into the building 5 years earlier. Close enough for convenience, far enough for independence, she'd said. At 37, she ran the operational side of Caldwell Innovations with ruthless efficiency, complementing Dominic's visionary approach with practical execution. "We need to talk," Dominic said without preamble as he entered her office. Miranda looked up from her tablet, her expression shifting from irritation at the interruption to concern. "What's happened?" "Eliza Reyes just left my office." If he'd expected shock or guilt, he was disappointed. Miranda's face remained perfectly composed. "I see. And what did Ms. Reyes want after all this time?" "To tell me about our children. Our twins. Who are 8 years old." A brief flicker of something, surprise. Alarm, crossed Miranda's features before she regained control. "Children? That's quite a claim to make 3 days before our wedding. She tried to reach me 9 years ago. Multiple times, according to her. Through you." Miranda set down her tablet and leaned back in her chair, considering him. "And you believe her? Should I not? Dominic, think about it. A woman from your past suddenly appears days before your wedding, claiming you have children you've never known about. It's a little convenient, don't you think? She's not asking for money, if that's what you're implying." "Not yet." Miranda's voice was coolly logical. "But a woman with access to your children would have significant leverage." "Is that why you never told me she called? To protect me from potential leverage?" Miranda's composure faltered slightly. "I never said I didn't tell you. You didn't deny it either. It was 9 years ago, Dominic. I was new in my role. There were dozens of calls every day from people claiming personal connections, investment opportunities, revolutionary ideas. This wasn't a random caller. This was Eliza. A woman you'd left behind to pursue your career. A relationship you'd ended." The clinical description of what had been the most painful decision of his life stung. "I had a right to know she was trying to reach me. And what would you have done if you'd known? Abandoned the London project? Thrown away everything you'd worked for? That should have been my choice to make." Miranda stood up, moving around her desk to face him directly. "We're getting married in 3 days. The most influential people in tech will be there. Our investors, our board, our biggest clients. This is about more than just us, it's about the perception of stability in this company. I'm aware of the stakes. Are you? Because from where I'm standing, it seems like you're considering throwing away everything we've built over an unverified claim. I saw her, Miranda. I looked in her eyes. She's not lying about the children. Perhaps not. But that doesn't mean you're their father. The implication hit him like a slap. I need to know the truth. And how do you propose to find it? A DNA test? That would take time we don't have before the wedding. Then the wedding will have to wait. Miranda's eyes widened. You can't be serious. I'm not getting married with this hanging over me. Over us. Do you have any idea what postponing would do to our stock price? To investor confidence? I'm not talking about the company. I'm talking about our marriage. They're the same thing, Dominic. They've always been the same thing. Miranda moved back behind her desk, a physical barrier between them. Go ahead and meet these children if you must. Satisfy your curiosity. But do it after the wedding. In that moment, Dominic saw with perfect clarity what he'd been avoiding for years. Their relationship had always been a strategic alliance, a business arrangement dressed up as a romance. Convenient. Logical. Emotionally safe. I need to postpone the wedding. With or without your support. I've spent 2 years planning this wedding, Dominic. 2 years making sure every detail reflects perfectly on both of us. I'm sorry. No, you're not. Not yet. Miranda's voice was ice. But you will be when you see what this impulse costs you. Dominic left her office without another word, the threat hanging in the air behind him. The ride back to his penthouse apartment was silent. His driver, sensing his mood, didn't attempt conversation. Dominic stared at the city passing by, seeing none of it. His mind was filled with images of 2 children he'd never met, imagining what they might look like, how they might sound, what questions they might ask him. Why weren't you there? Did you know about us? Why didn't you want us? The thought of those questions, of the pain and confusion his absence must have caused, made his chest ache. How could he explain to them that he'd never known they existed? That if he had, everything would have been different? Would it, though? 9 years ago, would he have been ready to be a father? Would he have chosen Eliza and the twins over the London opportunity that had launched his career into the stratosphere? He wanted to believe he would have, but honesty forced him to confront the uncomfortable truth: he didn't know. Back in his apartment, he pulled out his phone and stared at Eliza's number on the business card. His finger hovered over the screen, hesitating. What would he even say? That he'd confronted Miranda? That his wedding was now in jeopardy? That he wanted to meet the children as soon as possible? Before he could decide, his phone rang with an incoming call from his lawyer, David Chen. Dominic, what the hell is going on? David's usually calm voice was agitated. I just got a call from Miranda's attorney threatening a breach of contract lawsuit if you postpone the wedding. That was fast. Fast? It's been less than an hour since you left her office. Do you want to tell me what's happening? Dominic sank onto his couch, suddenly exhausted. It's complicated. Complicated is what you pay me to handle. Talk to me. I just found out I have children. Twins. 8 years old. A long pause followed. I see. And Miranda? May have known about them for years. May have deliberately kept them from me. Another pause. That's a serious accusation. I know. Do you have proof? Not yet. But I'm going to find it. And in the meantime, you want to postpone the wedding. I need to meet my children, David. I need to understand what happened. I can't get married with this hanging over me. Dominic, you and Miranda have a prenuptial agreement with specific clauses about cancellation penalties. If you postpone without mutual consent, she could claim significant damages. I don't care about the money. It's not just money. There are professional reputation considerations, board implications, potential investor panic. Your personal life and business are deeply intertwined. They shouldn't be. Perhaps not, but they are. David's tone softened slightly. Look, I understand this is a shock. But rushing into decisions could have far-reaching consequences. Let me look into the legal aspects while you consider your options. What options? If what Eliza says is true, if Miranda kept my children from me for 9 years while planning to be my wife, there's no coming back from that. If being the operative word. You need proof before you blow up your life. Dominic closed his eyes, seeing Eliza's face, the truth in her eyes. I'm going to meet the children. Everything else can wait. After ending the call, Dominic stared at his phone again, then finally typed a message to Eliza. I've spoken with Miranda. The wedding is on hold. I want to meet Sophia and Gabriel as soon as possible. The response came almost immediately. Tomorrow. Central Park by the Alice in Wonderland statue. 4 p.m., I need to prepare them. Dominic replied with a simple, thank you, and set down his phone. Then he did something he hadn't done in years, he cried. For the lost years, for the children who had grown up without him, for the man he might have been if he'd known. When his phone buzzed again, he expected another message from Eliza. Instead, it was a news alert. Breaking: Caldwell Innovations CEO Dominic Caldwell postpones high-profile wedding to COO Miranda Porter. Stock down 6% in after-hours trading. The news was out. There was no going back now. That evening, as Dominic tried to prepare for the meeting with his children, his phone wouldn't stop ringing. Board members, investors, friends, all wanting to know what was happening. He ignored them all, focusing instead on researching child development, trying to understand what 8-year-olds were like, what they might need from him. The doorbell rang just after 9 p.m. He wasn't expecting anyone, and his doorman hadn't called up. When he opened the door, Miranda stood there, her perfect composure slightly frayed at the edges. May I come in? He stepped aside, letting her enter. She moved to the center of his living room, surveying the space as if seeing it for the first time. I had my attorneys draft papers this afternoon, she said without preamble. They outline a mutually beneficial resolution to our situation. Our situation? The postponement. The children. All of it. She placed a folder on his coffee table. I'm prepared to be reasonable, Dominic. I understand this is disruptive. Disruptive. He repeated the word, testing its inadequacy. I've just discovered I have 2 children I've never met, children who have been wondering about me their entire lives, and you call it disruptive? What would you prefer I call it? A catastrophe? A tragedy? It's a complication, Dominic. One we can manage together. Did you know? 9 years ago, when Eliza tried to contact me, did you know she was pregnant? Miranda's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. I told you. It was 9 years ago. I was handling dozens of calls. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're going to get. She gestured to the folder. The papers offer a compromise. We proceed with the wedding as scheduled, but with a modified prenuptial agreement that acknowledges your paternal obligations. You can establish trusts for the children, arrange visitation, all the standard accommodations. Standard accommodations, Dominic echoed, incredulous. These aren't business associates, Miranda. They're my children. Children you didn't know existed until today. Children you haven't met. Children who, quite frankly, have done just fine without you for 8 years. Get out. Miranda blinked, clearly not expecting this response. Excuse me. Get out of my home. Now. You're not thinking clearly. The board meeting tomorrow. I don't care about the board meeting. I don't care about the stock price. I care about meeting my children and figuring out what kind of father I can be to them. And what kind of CEO will you be when the company's value plummets because of your personal drama? When investors pull out because they see you as unstable? When competitors capitalize on the chaos? If the company can't survive me taking time to meet my children, then it's not the company I thought I built. Miranda's composure finally cracked, her face flushing with anger. You didn't build it alone. I was there every step of the way. Making the connections, smoothing the difficulties, handling the details you were too visionary to bother with. I earned my place at your side, both professionally and personally. And did part of earning that place involve keeping my children from me? She picked up the folder, her knuckles white from gripping it too tightly. You're making a mistake, Dominic. One you won't be able to undo. I already made the mistake. 9 years ago when I left Eliza. Everything since then has just been living with the consequences. After she left, Dominic sat in silence for a long time, trying to make sense of everything that had happened in the past 12 hours. His entire life had been upended, his future suddenly uncertain. The only thing he knew with absolute clarity was that he needed to meet his children. Everything else, the company, the wedding, the fallout, would have to wait. Have you ever discovered something that made you question everything about your life? How did you handle that moment of truth? Share your experience in the comments below. The next morning, Dominic woke after a restless night, his mind still racing with questions and imagined scenarios. What would his children be like? Would they resent him? Would they accept him? What could he possibly say to explain his absence from their lives? His phone showed dozens of missed calls and messages. The business world was in an uproar over his postponed wedding and what it might mean for Caldwell Innovations. His PR team had sent numerous urgent requests for guidance on how to respond to media inquiries. His board chairman was demanding an emergency meeting. None of it seemed to matter compared to the meeting scheduled for that afternoon. He spent the morning in a strange limbo, attempting to handle the most pressing business concerns while simultaneously preparing for what felt like the most important meeting of his life. He considered bringing gifts for the children but worried it would seem like a bribe. He thought about wearing something casual instead of his usual suit but feared it might come across as trying too hard. In the end, he opted for simple honesty, no gifts, no costume changes, just himself and the truth. At 3:30, his driver dropped him near the entrance to Central Park. Dominic chose to walk the rest of the way, needing the movement to settle his nerves. The spring air was crisp, filled with the sounds of life, children laughing, dogs barking, street musicians playing. How many times had he walked through this park, never imagining that his own children might have been playing here? The Alice in Wonderland statue came into view, and his steps slowed. Several families were gathered around it, children climbing on the bronze figures while parents watched. How would he even recognize them? All he knew was that they had his eyes. As he approached, a woman separated from the crowd. Eliza. And beside her, two small figures who made his heart stop. They were beautiful. The boy was tall for his age, with dark hair and a serious expression that reminded Dominic of his own childhood photos. The girl was more delicate in build but had an unmistakable confidence in the way she held herself, her eyes taking in everything with keen interest. Both had his startling blue eyes, a genetic signature impossible to deny. That's him, he heard the girl say, and Dominic realized they recognized him immediately. Of course they did. His face was on magazine covers, in business profiles, all over the internet. While he was just discovering their existence, they had known about him for years. The playground in Central Park was crowded with children enjoying the unusually warm spring day. Dominic sat on a bench, feeling absurdly out of place in his tailored suit among the casual parents. "They'll be here soon," Eliza had texted 20 minutes ago. His phone had been buzzing constantly since the wedding postponement announcement had hit the business press yesterday. The stock had dropped 8 points. The board had called an emergency meeting. Miranda hadn't spoken to him directly, communicating only through attorneys. None of it mattered as much as the moment approaching. "That's him," said a child's voice, and Dominic looked up to see Eliza walking toward him, a boy and girl on either side of her. His heart stopped. They did have his eyes. The exact same blue. But Gabriel had Eliza's smile, and Sophia had her graceful way of moving. They were beautiful, perfect blends of himself and the woman he'd once loved more than his ambition. Dominic stood as they approached, uncertain of protocol. Should he offer a handshake? Was that too formal? A hug seemed presumptuous. "Dominic, these are your children. Sophia and Gabriel." Eliza's voice was gentle but firm. "Kids, this is Dominic Caldwell." "Hello," Sophia said, her voice carrying a confidence unusual in an 8-year-old. "Mom says you didn't know about us." Direct. Unflinching. Like him. "That's right," Dominic said, finding his voice. "If I had known, I would have been part of your lives from the beginning." "But you left Mom," Gabriel pointed out, his expression serious. "Before you knew about us." The accusation, simple and true, pierced Dominic's careful defenses. "I did. It was the biggest mistake of my life." "Bigger than postponing your wedding?" Sophia asked. "It's all over the news." "Sophia," Eliza cautioned. "We talked about appropriate questions." "It's all right," Dominic said. "Yes, even bigger than that. Because leaving your mother meant missing out on knowing both of you." The children exchanged a glance, some silent communication passing between them. "Mom says you build computers that can think," Gabriel said. "Something like that. My company works on artificial intelligence. I'm building a robot for my science project," Gabriel continued. "But it doesn't work yet. I'd love to see it sometime." Dominic caught himself. "If that would be okay with you and your mother." "Mom said we can decide if we want to see you again after today," Sophia informed him. "We get to vote." "That seems fair." Dominic looked at Eliza, who was watching the interaction with carefully concealed emotion. "I hope I can earn a positive vote." "We should walk," Eliza suggested. "The kids have been sitting in school all day." As they moved through the park, the conversation gradually eased. Gabriel described his robot project in detail, while Sophia, who apparently shared Eliza's artistic talent, talked about her photography class. They asked questions about his work, his life, his childhood, probing with the natural curiosity of intelligent children trying to understand a parent they'd never known. "My robot is supposed to sort different colored balls," Gabriel explained. "I programmed it to recognize colors and move them to different containers." "That's impressive," Dominic said, genuinely amazed. "What language did you use for the programming?" "Python. Mom's friend Jake taught me. He's a programmer." Dominic glanced at Eliza, wondering who Jake was and what role he played in their lives. "Jake helps with the technical stuff," Eliza explained, reading his expression. "He's been a good friend to us." "I'm glad you had support," Dominic said, swallowing the unexpected jealousy he felt toward this unknown man who had been present for his children when he hadn't been. "I take pictures too," Sophia said, drawing his attention. "Like Mom. But I like to photograph buildings more than people. The shapes and lines make better compositions." "She's already won 2 junior photography competitions," Eliza added, pride evident in her voice. "That's amazing," Dominic said. "I'd love to see your work sometime." "I brought my portfolio," Sophia said, patting her small backpack. "Mom said you might want to see it." The simple gesture, a child bringing her work to show her father, hit Dominic with unexpected force. This was what fatherhood meant, children wanting to share their accomplishments, seeking approval, connection. "I'd love to see it," he said, his voice rough with emotion. They found a table near the boathouse, and Sophia carefully removed a thin portfolio case from her backpack. Inside were a dozen 8 by 10 photographs, each in a protective sleeve. They were remarkable, striking urban landscapes, architectural details, patterns of light and shadow that showed a sophisticated eye. "These are extraordinary," Dominic said, studying each one carefully. "You have a real talent." Sophia beamed with pleasure, her reserve melting slightly. "Mom says I have a good eye." She's right. While Dominic and Sophia looked at the photographs, Gabriel had been quietly studying him. "Did you love our mom?" he asked suddenly. Dominic looked up, caught off guard by the directness of the question. He glanced at Eliza, who seemed equally surprised. "Gabriel," she began, but Dominic shook his head. "It's okay. He deserves an honest answer." He turned to his son. "Yes, I loved your mother very much. She was the most important person in my life." "Then why did you leave?" The question came from Sophia this time. "Did you love our mom?" Sophia asked suddenly as they watched Gabriel climbing on a rock formation nearby. Dominic glanced at Eliza, who had moved a few steps away to give them some privacy. "Very much," he answered honestly. "Then why did you leave?" "Because I thought success was more important than love." "I was wrong." Sophia considered this with solemn gravity. "Are you going to marry that lady in the news? The one who works with you?" "I don't know anymore." "Because of us?" "Partly because of you. Partly because meeting you has helped me see what really matters. Mom says it's never too late to fix a mistake. Your mom is very wise." Dominic looked over at Eliza, who was watching Gabriel with the vigilant attention of a mother who had done it all alone for too long. "I hope she's right." The afternoon continued with this mixture of casual conversation and startlingly profound moments. The children were remarkably composed for their age, asking questions that revealed both their intelligence and the emotional complexity of their situation. By the time they were saying goodbye, Dominic felt both emotionally drained and strangely hopeful. "Can we see you again?" Gabriel asked as they prepared to leave. "I'd like that very much," Dominic replied, looking to Eliza for permission. "We'll discuss it," she said, not committing but not refusing. "Thank you for today," Dominic said softly. "They're incredible, Eliza. You've done an amazing job." "They are incredible," she agreed. "I'll call you later to talk about next steps." As Dominic watched them walk away, the girl turning once to wave, he felt a powerful mixture of pride, regret, and determination. These were his children. Somehow, he would find a way to be the father they deserved. Back in his apartment that evening, Dominic tried to process everything that had happened. Meeting his children had changed something fundamental inside him, shifted his priorities in ways he was still trying to understand. The business concerns that had consumed him for years now seemed distant and unimportant compared to finding a way to be part of Sophia and Gabriel's lives. His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. The screen showed the name of his board chairman, Walter Kincaid. "Walter. I assume this is about the emergency meeting." "Which you missed," Walter's voice was tight with controlled anger. "The entire board was there, Dominic. Every major investor representation. And the CEO was nowhere to be found. I had a personal matter that couldn't be rescheduled. More important than the 12% drop in our stock price. More important than the 3 partnership deals now on hold because of concerns about company stability. More important than the fact that your COO and fiancé is threatening to resign. Yes." The silence that followed was deafening. "I have children, Walter. Twins. I just met them today for the first time. They're 8 years old, and I didn't know they existed until yesterday." Another long silence followed. Then Walter's voice, considerably gentler, "I see. That's quite a development. It changes everything. I understand that on a personal level. But Dominic, the company can't simply stop while you sort out your personal life. There are thousands of employees depending on Caldwell Innovations for their livelihoods. Investors who have put their trust in you. Clients who rely on our products. I know that. I'm not abandoning the company. I just need some time to figure out how to be a father to these children. And Miranda? What's happening there? Dominic hesitated, not ready to share his suspicions. The wedding is postponed indefinitely. Beyond that, I don't know. This is going to create even more instability, Dominic. The markets hate uncertainty. Then we'll need to provide certainty in other ways. Schedule a press conference for tomorrow morning. I'll make a statement addressing the situation. What are you going to say? The truth. Or at least as much of it as I can share publicly. After ending the call, Dominic's phone rang again almost immediately. It was Eliza. The children have voted, she said without preamble. They want to see you again. Relief flooded through him. I'm glad. They'd like you to come to dinner tomorrow evening. At our home. They want to show you their rooms, their projects, their lives. I'd be honored. Dominic, her voice turned cautious. They're excited. Which means they're vulnerable. I need to know that you're serious about being in their lives consistently. They can't handle a father who appears and then disappears when things get complicated. I understand. I'm committed to this, Eliza. To them. Good. Because they've already lost you once, even if they didn't know it. I won't let them go through that pain again. After giving him her address and a time for dinner, she added, they've seen the news about your postponed wedding. They're curious about what it means. What did you tell them? That adults sometimes need to reconsider big decisions when circumstances change. But they're smart, Dominic. They know it's because of them. It's not just because of them. It's because of what their existence revealed. Miranda. Yes. Did she admit to keeping my messages from you? Not explicitly. But she didn't deny it either. Eliza was quiet for a moment. I never understood why she would do that. We'd never even met. She had no reason to interfere that way. I'm going to find out, Dominic promised. For all our sakes. After ending the call with Eliza, Dominic made another decision. He needed to understand exactly what had happened 9 years ago, and there was only one person who might have those answers. He reached for his phone again and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. Angela Hayes speaking. Angela, it's Dominic Caldwell. A surprised pause. Dominic. It's been a while. 9 years, give or take. What can I do for you? Angela Hayes had been Caldwell Innovations' head of HR during Dominic's early years with the company, including during his transition to the London office. She had retired 5 years ago, but if anyone knew the inner workings of the company during that critical time, it would be her. I need to ask you about something that happened when I moved to London. About my assistant at the time, Miranda Porter. I see. Angela's voice turned cautious. This wouldn't have anything to do with the news about your postponed wedding, would it? It might. I need to know if there were any issues, any concerns about how Miranda handled communications directed to me during that time. That's a very specific question about events from nearly a decade ago. I know it's asking a lot. But it's important. Angela sighed. Dominic, HR files are confidential. You know that. I'm not asking for files. I'm asking if you remember anything that might help me understand what happened. A long pause followed. There was something. A complaint. From a temporary receptionist who worked the front desk for a few months during that time. She claimed that Miranda had instructed her to direct all personal calls for you to her desk rather than putting them through to London as per the standard protocol. Dominic's pulse quickened. Do you remember the receptionist's name? Lucy Chen, I believe. Young woman, very conscientious. She was concerned it was a breach of company policy. What happened with the complaint? Miranda explained that she was filtering calls per your direct instruction, to allow you to focus on the London launch without distractions. Since you were her direct supervisor and she had an email from you asking her to handle things, the complaint was dismissed. I never asked her to block personal calls. Well, that would have been impossible for HR to determine at the time. The instruction to handle things was vague enough to cover many interpretations. Do you know what happened to Lucy Chen? She completed her temporary assignment and left. I believe Miranda gave her a rather negative performance review, which was unusual for a temporary receptionist. Thank you, Angela. This is very helpful. Dominic, her voice turned serious, whatever is happening, be careful. Miranda has always been strategic in her approach to your career and hers. After hanging up, Dominic sat in silence, processing this new information. It wasn't proof, but it was a thread to follow. Lucy Chen had noticed something amiss in how Miranda handled his communications. If he could find her, perhaps she could provide more details about what actually happened. His lawyer had always cautioned him against making accusations without evidence. Now he needed to find that evidence, not just for any potential legal case, but for his own peace of mind. Had the woman he was planning to marry deliberately kept his children from him for 9 years? And if so, why? The next morning, Dominic stood before a room full of reporters, camera lights blinding as he prepared to make his statement. His PR team had worked through the night drafting various approaches, but in the end, he had decided to speak from the heart. Thank you all for coming on such short notice, he began. As you know, I recently postponed my wedding to Miranda Porter, which has led to considerable speculation and concern. I'd like to address that situation directly. He paused, gathering his thoughts. 2 days ago, I received information that fundamentally changed my life. I learned that I am the father of 8-year-old twins, a son and daughter I never knew existed until that moment. Their mother and I parted ways 9 years ago when I moved to London to expand Caldwell Innovations. She attempted to contact me about the pregnancy at that time, but for reasons I am still investigating, those communications never reached me. The room erupted with questions. Dominic held up his hand for silence. I have now met my children, and they are remarkable. I am committed to being a father to them, to supporting them and their mother, and to building a relationship with them moving forward. This will naturally require adjustments to both my personal and professional life. Regarding Caldwell Innovations, I want to assure our investors, partners, and employees that the company remains strong and stable. Our technological innovations continue to lead the industry, our financial position is secure, and our leadership team is fully capable of managing any transitions that may occur as I balance my responsibilities as CEO with my new responsibilities as a father. As for my relationship with Miranda Porter, that is a private matter that we are addressing together. I ask that you respect the privacy of all involved, especially the children, during this sensitive time. I will now take a limited number of questions. The press conference was chaotic but ultimately successful. The stock price stabilized by mid-morning, and the narrative in the business press shifted from CEO in crisis to tech leader faces unexpected fatherhood. It wasn't ideal, but it was manageable. What wasn't manageable was the email that arrived from Miranda shortly after the press conference ended. If you want to know the truth about your children, meet me at the office at 2 p.m. I have information you haven't considered. The quotation marks around children sent a chill through Dominic. What was Miranda implying? That the children weren't his? That Eliza was lying somehow? Despite his instinct to ignore the message, Dominic knew he needed to hear whatever Miranda had to say. If there was any information that could affect his relationship with Sophia and Gabriel, he needed to know it. At precisely 2 p.m., he entered Miranda's office. She sat behind her desk, composed and professional as always, though the strain of recent events showed in the tightness around her eyes. Thank you for coming, she said, gesturing to a chair. Your email suggested you have information about my children. I'm listening. Miranda slid a folder across her desk. I had our security team pull the visitor logs from 9 years ago. There is no record of Eliza Reyes ever coming to our offices. Dominic opened the folder, scanning the pages. She said she called. And wrote letters. Which anyone could claim without proof. Miranda leaned forward. Dominic, think about this logically. A woman you haven't seen in 9 years suddenly appears days before our wedding, claiming you have children together. Children she never mentioned until now. Don't you find that suspicious? She said she tried to tell me when she found out she was pregnant. And you only have her word for that. No proof. No records of these alleged calls or letters. Why would she lie? Money. Status. Revenge for being left behind. Take your pick. Miranda's voice softened. I'm not saying the children don't exist. I'm not even saying they're not yours. But the timing and circumstances warrant investigation before you upend your entire life. Dominic closed the folder. I met them, Miranda. They have my eyes. My expressions. There's no question they're mine. Physical resemblance isn't definitive proof. You're a wealthy, high-profile man. The potential payoff for such a deception would be enormous. Eliza isn't asking for money. Not yet. The conversation was beginning to feel familiar, like a carefully rehearsed script Miranda had prepared. I spoke with Angela Hayes yesterday. If he expected a reaction, he was disappointed. Miranda's expression remained neutral. Oh. How is she enjoying retirement? She mentioned a complaint from a temporary receptionist named Lucy Chen. About you intercepting my personal calls. A flicker of something, annoyance. Concern, crossed Miranda's face before her composure returned. That was a misunderstanding. Lucy was new and didn't understand company protocols. Which protocols involved directing all my personal calls to you instead of to me in London? You asked me to screen your calls, Dominic. To protect your focus during the critical launch phase. You said, and I quote, handle things for me, Miranda. I need to be fully present here. I meant routine business matters, not personal calls from my ex-girlfriend. How was I to know which personal calls were important? You were building a new life, a new future. You'd made the decision to leave your old life behind. There was a logic to her argument that made Dominic uncomfortable. Had he been so focused on success that he'd created the conditions for this deception? Had his ambition made Miranda's interference possible? Why didn't you tell me specifically about Eliza's calls? I don't recall any calls from Eliza specifically. Miranda's voice was smooth, practiced. There were dozens of calls every day. Without visitor logs or phone records, which are long gone now, it's impossible to verify what calls came in or how they were handled. It was a perfect deflection, acknowledging the possibility while denying specific knowledge, making it impossible to prove or disprove after so much time had passed. I don't believe you, Dominic said finally. I think you knew exactly who Eliza was. I think you deliberately kept her calls and messages from me. What I don't understand is why. Miranda's calm facade finally cracked, her eyes flashing with genuine emotion. Because you deserved better. Better than a struggling photographer with no connections, no understanding of the world you were entering. You were destined for greatness, Dominic. I saw it from the moment my father introduced us. You needed someone who could help you achieve that potential, not hold you back with domestic distractions. The naked ambition in her voice was startling. So you appointed yourself as the gatekeeper of my future? Decided for me that my own children were domestic distractions? I didn't know she was pregnant. At least not at first. Miranda caught herself, realizing too late what she'd admitted. At first? So you did know eventually? Miranda looked away. There was a message. On the company answering service. Months after you'd gone to London. She said she was pregnant, that she'd been trying to reach you. By then, you were already seeing Clarissa Reynolds in London. You seemed happy, focused. What good would it have done to disrupt that with a complicated situation from your past? That wasn't your decision to make. It was the right decision for your career. Look at what you've accomplished. Would any of that have been possible if you'd been dividing your attention between London and a complicated long-distance family situation? I'll never know, will I? Because you took that choice away from me. Dominic stood, unable to remain in the same room with her any longer. The wedding isn't just postponed, Miranda. It's cancelled. And your position at Caldwell Innovations is untenable. You're firing me. After everything I've done for this company. For you. I'm giving you the opportunity to resign with a generous severance package and a mutually agreeable public statement. The alternative is termination for cause and the public disclosure of what you've done. You wouldn't dare. The company's stock would plummet. The board would rebel. Try me. As Dominic turned to leave, Miranda called after him, her voice tightly controlled again. This isn't over, Dominic. Those children have lived 8 years without you. They don't need you now. And when this emotional impulse passes, you'll realize what you've thrown away for a fantasy of fatherhood. Dominic paused at the door. You're wrong. They do need me. And I need them. I just didn't know it until now. Walking back to his office, Dominic felt lighter than he had in years, as if a burden he hadn't recognized had been lifted. The confrontation with Miranda had clarified things in a way nothing else could have. He no longer had any doubts about what had happened or what he needed to do next. He checked his watch. 5 hours until dinner with his children. With his family. That evening, as Dominic stood outside Eliza's brownstone in Brooklyn, a bouquet of flowers in one hand and 2 carefully wrapped packages in the other, he felt a nervousness he hadn't experienced since his first major product launch. This was more important than any business deal, any investment pitch, any board presentation. This was the beginning of his life as a father. He rang the doorbell, taking a deep breath to steady himself. The door opened, and Gabriel stood there, grinning up at him. You came. Of course I did. I wouldn't miss it. Sophia appeared behind her brother. Mom said you might be busy with work stuff because of the wedding thing. Nothing is more important than being here tonight, Dominic said, meaning every word. Eliza emerged from deeper in the house, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. Come in, Dominic. Dinner's almost ready. The brownstone was warm and inviting, filled with photographs, books, and the collected treasures of a family's life together. Art projects hung on walls, school certificates were proudly displayed on the refrigerator, and comfortable furniture invited relaxation rather than showcasing design. I brought these for you, Dominic said, handing the flowers to Eliza. And these are for Sophia and Gabriel. He held out the packages. You didn't need to bring gifts, Eliza said, but she accepted the flowers with a small smile. Can we open them now? Gabriel asked eagerly. After dinner, Eliza directed. Go wash your hands, both of you. As the children raced upstairs, Dominic took the opportunity to speak privately with Eliza. I confronted Miranda today. She admitted knowing about your pregnancy. Said she kept the information from me because it would have disrupted my career trajectory. Eliza's expression tightened. 9 years of their lives. 9 years they could have had a father. I know. I can never get that time back. But I'm here now, and I want to be part of their future, in whatever way you'll allow. The future, Eliza repeated softly. That's what we need to focus on now. She gestured toward the dining room. Come on. The kids have been talking about this dinner all day. The meal was lively and warm, so different from the formal business dinners or carefully orchestrated social events that had filled Dominic's calendar for years. The children chattered about school, friends, projects, asking him questions about his life and work with the unfiltered curiosity of youth. There was a naturalness to their interaction that surprised him, as if some core connection had survived despite 9 years of separation. After dinner, the children finally opened their gifts. For Gabriel, Dominic had chosen an advanced robotics kit with programmable features that would challenge and expand his current skills. For Sophia, he had found a professional-grade camera, smaller than adult models but with real capabilities beyond a typical child's toy. Their excitement was everything he could have hoped for, their genuine appreciation warming something inside him that had been cold for too long. "Can you help me set it up?" Gabriel asked, holding up the robotics kit. "I'd love to," Dominic replied. "Maybe this weekend, if that's okay with your mom." All eyes turned to Eliza, who seemed to be considering something important. "Actually, I've been thinking about that. About how we move forward from here." "Mom, can Dominic come over a lot?" Sophia asked. "Like, regularly?" "That's what I want to discuss," Eliza said. "Dominic and I need to figure out a schedule, a structure for how he'll be part of your lives." "Like joint custody?" Gabriel asked. "Like Jason's parents have?" "Something like that," Eliza agreed. "But we need to take it slowly, make sure everyone is comfortable with each step." "I want whatever works best for the children," Dominic said. "And for you, Eliza. You've been their only parent for 8 years. I respect that." Eliza looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Assessment, perhaps, or cautious hope. The children should say goodnight now. It's getting late, and they have school tomorrow. After enthusiastic hugs for Dominic and promises to see him soon, Sophia and Gabriel went upstairs to prepare for bed. When they were alone, Eliza turned to Dominic with a more serious expression. "What happens now, Dominic? With your company, with Miranda, with your life? The children are already attached to you. I need to know what they're getting into." "Miranda will be leaving the company. I've given her the option to resign with dignity, but she's leaving one way or another. And the company? We'll adjust. I've already spoken to the board about restructuring some of my responsibilities to allow me more flexibility for family commitments." "Family commitments," Eliza repeated. That's a significant shift for Dominic Caldwell, workaholic extraordinaire. People change. Sometimes they need a wake-up call. He hesitated, then added, "I've bought a house in Brooklyn. Not far from here. The paperwork was finalized this afternoon." Eliza's eyes widened. That was fast. When something matters, you don't waste time. He held her gaze. Being near them matters. Being able to be part of their daily lives, not just scheduled visits, matters. "And your Manhattan penthouse?" "I'll keep it for now, for nights when work makes the commute impractical. But my home will be here, close to them." Eliza was quiet for a long moment. "You're serious about this?" "More serious than I've been about anything in my life. The Dominic I knew 9 years ago wouldn't have made that choice. The Dominic you knew 9 years ago was a fool who didn't understand what really mattered. Meeting Sophia and Gabriel has changed everything for me, Eliza. Everything." The sincerity in his voice seemed to reach her, breaking through some final reservation. "They need consistency, Dominic. They need to know you're not going to disappear again when the novelty wears off or when business demands your attention. I know. And I'm going to prove to all of you that I'm here to stay. Not just with words, but with daily choices and actions." As he prepared to leave, Dominic paused at the door. "I'll never be able to make up for the years I missed. But I promise you, Eliza, I won't miss another day that I can possibly be present for." She nodded, a small smile finally breaking through her careful reserve. "Good night, Dominic. The children want to show you Gabriel's robot competition this weekend. Saturday at 10 a.m. at their school. Can you make it?" I wouldn't miss it for anything. What would you do if you discovered children you never knew existed? How do you rebuild a relationship with someone from your past while creating new bonds with the children you've missed knowing for years? Share your thoughts on this complex situation in the comments below. The Saturday morning of Gabriel's robot competition dawned bright and clear. Dominic had been awake since 5, reviewing reports from the London office, addressing urgent emails, and preparing for the day ahead. Not the business day, the father day. The concept still felt new, like a jacket that fit perfectly but hadn't yet molded to his shoulders. He arrived at the school 30 minutes early, parking his modest rental car in the visitor's lot. He'd deliberately chosen not to bring his usual driver or the company car, wanting to blend in rather than draw attention. This day wasn't about Dominic Caldwell, CEO. It was about Gabriel's father showing up to support him. The elementary school gym buzzed with excited energy as children and parents set up robot displays on long tables. Dominic scanned the crowd, spotting Eliza's dark hair near the center of the room. She was kneeling beside Gabriel, helping him arrange his robot and its accessories on their assigned table. "Need an extra pair of hands?" Dominic asked as he approached. Gabriel's face lit up. "You came. I promised, didn't I?" Eliza stood up, giving him a small smile. "We're almost set up. Gabriel's in the 3rd round of judging, which starts in about 20 minutes. Where's Sophia?" Dominic asked, noticing his daughter's absence. "Photography club. They're documenting the event. She'll be running around with a camera all morning." As if summoned by her name, Sophia appeared, a camera hanging from a strap around her neck. "Dad. You're here." The word "Dad" slipped out naturally, catching them both by surprise. Sophia faltered momentarily, then continued with determined confidence. "I'm taking pictures for the school yearbook. Want to see what I've got so far?" "Dad." The word echoed in Dominic's mind, filling a space he hadn't known was empty. "I'd love to." Sophia showed him the digital display, flipping through shots of excited competitors, detailed robot close-ups, and candid moments of concentration and celebration. Her eye for composition was remarkable, capturing emotions and relationships rather than just subjects. "These are exceptional," Dominic said honestly. "You've got a real talent." "Mom says the same thing," Sophia replied, beaming. "I want to be a photographer like her, but maybe for National Geographic or something. Taking pictures of animals and nature and different cultures. That sounds like an amazing career." "Miss Reyes." A teacher called from across the room. "We need our photographer." "That's me," Sophia said proudly. "I have to go. Watch Gabriel win." As she darted away, Dominic turned back to his son, who was making final adjustments to his robot. The creation was impressive. A mechanical arm mounted on a wheeled base, with color sensors and a series of programmed movements designed to sort different colored balls into corresponding containers. "How's it working?" Dominic asked, kneeling beside Gabriel. "The red sensor keeps glitching," Gabriel said, frowning. "It sometimes thinks orange balls are red." Dominic examined the setup. "May I?" At Gabriel's nod, he looked more closely at the sensor alignment. "I think the issue might be the angle. If the sensor is tilted slightly, it could be misreading the reflection from the orange balls." Gabriel's eyes widened. "That makes sense. The red and orange wavelengths are pretty close." "Exactly. Let's try adjusting it a bit." Working together, father and son recalibrated the sensor, testing it until the robot could reliably distinguish between red and orange. The focused collaboration felt natural, as if they'd been solving problems together for years rather than minutes. "It works!" Gabriel exclaimed as the robot successfully sorted a set of test balls. "Of course it does," Dominic said. "You built it." The pride on Gabriel's face was worth more than any business deal Dominic had ever closed. The competition itself was exciting and suspenseful. Gabriel's robot performed well in the first round, faltered slightly in the second when a motor briefly stalled, then came back strong in the final round. Throughout it all, Dominic found himself completely invested, his heart racing with each success and momentarily stopping with each near failure. Is this what being a father feels like? He wondered. This total emotional engagement in someone else's achievement. When the judges announced the winners, Gabriel's robot had placed second in his age division, an impressive showing for his first major competition. The joy on his son's face as he accepted his silver medal made Dominic's chest tight with pride. "You did amazing," Dominic told him afterward, pulling him into a spontaneous hug that Gabriel returned with surprising strength. "Thanks for helping with the sensor," Gabriel said. "I couldn't have fixed it without you." "Yes, you could have. You're brilliant. But I'm glad I could help." As they packed up the robot, Sophia rejoined them, her camera full of competition photos. Gabriel got second place. "I got the perfect shot of his face when they called his name." "We should celebrate," Dominic suggested, looking to Eliza for approval. She nodded. "I was thinking lunch at Milo's. It's their favorite pizza place." Perfect. The family lunch that followed was relaxed and joyful. The children chattered about the competition, their friends, their upcoming school projects. Dominic found himself drawn into their world, answering questions about his own childhood, his first science fair, his favorite subjects in school. "Did you always know you wanted to build computers?" Gabriel asked between bites of pepperoni pizza. "Not always. When I was about your age, I wanted to be an astronaut." "What changed your mind?" Dominic considered this. "I realized I was more interested in creating things than exploring things. I loved the idea of building something that could change how people live and work." "Like your AI systems," Sophia observed. "Mom showed us an article about how they're helping doctors diagnose diseases faster." "That's one of our projects I'm most proud of," Dominic admitted. "Using technology to save lives feels meaningful in a way that making money never did." Eliza looked at him with surprise. "That's not something the Dominic I knew would have said." "The Dominic you knew was still figuring things out," he replied quietly. "Some of us take longer than others to understand what really matters." The afternoon continued with a visit to a nearby park, where the twins showed Dominic their favorite climbing structures and hidden spots. Watching them run and play, occasionally calling for him to "look at this," or "watch me," Dominic felt a profound shift in his perception of success. For years, he had measured his achievements in acquisitions, stock prices, and market share. Now, suddenly, success looked like his children's smiles and the sound of their laughter. As the day drew to a close, Dominic found himself reluctant to leave. The thought of returning to his empty penthouse, to the waiting stack of contracts and reports, felt hollow compared to the warmth of the day he'd just experienced. "Will we see you tomorrow?" Sophia asked as they stood outside Eliza's brownstone. Dominic glanced at Eliza, not wanting to overstep. "That's up to your mom." "Actually," Eliza said, "I have a photography assignment tomorrow that I was going to reschedule. It's for a magazine profile, so it's important. But if you're available." "I am," Dominic said immediately. "I'd be happy to spend the day with them." "Really?" Gabriel looked delighted. "Can we see your company?" "The building with all the robots and computers?" "If that's what you'd like, absolutely." "Is that okay, Mom?" Sophia asked, clearly excited by the prospect. Eliza hesitated only briefly. "As long as you behave and listen to your father." "Your father." The phrase sent a wave of both joy and responsibility through Dominic. "I'll pick them up at 9, he suggested. 9 is perfect. I'll have them ready." As Dominic drove back to Manhattan, his mind was already planning the next day's activities. He'd need to alert security about his children's visit, arrange for age-appropriate demonstrations in the robotics lab, clear his schedule of any non-essential meetings. For the first time in his career, work considerations took second place to personal ones, and the shift felt not just right but overdue. Has your life ever been completely transformed by a single event or realization? How did you handle the transition from your old priorities to your new ones? Share your story of personal transformation in the comments below. The next morning, Dominic arrived promptly at 9, excited about the day ahead. The children were waiting, backpacks in hand, with Eliza giving final instructions about behavior and safety. "Don't touch anything without permission," she was saying. "Stay with your father at all times. And remember that this is a place of business, so use your indoor voices." "We will," the twins promised in near-perfect unison. "They'll be fine," Dominic assured her. "I've cleared my schedule completely, and security knows to expect us." Eliza nodded, though a hint of anxiety remained in her expression. "This is the first time they've been anywhere without me since they were born." The admission hit Dominic with unexpected force. Of course. As a single mother, Eliza had been their constant, their only parent, their entire support system for 8 years. This simple day trip represented a significant milestone for all of them. "I'll take good care of them," he promised, his voice softening. "And I'll have them home by 6. 5:30 would be better. I should be done with the shoot by then." 5:30 it is. "Kids, say goodbye to your mom." After hugs and one more reminder about behavior, they were off. The drive to Manhattan was filled with excited questions from the back seat as the twins spotted landmarks and asked about buildings they passed. "Is that where you live?" Sophia asked as they drove past a particularly impressive skyscraper. "No, my apartment is a bit further uptown. But that's where my friend Jason's company is based." "Is he as rich as you?" Gabriel asked with the directness unique to children. Dominic laughed. "I don't know exactly how rich Jason is. But wealth isn't just about money, you know." "Mom says that too," Sophia noted. "She says we're rich in experiences and love and creativity." "Your mom is very wise. But you are rich in money too, right?" Gabriel persisted. "The internet says you're worth billions." "The internet isn't always accurate," Dominic said carefully. "But yes, the company I built is very valuable, which makes me wealthy in financial terms. That wealth comes with a lot of responsibility, though." "Like what?" Sophia seemed genuinely curious. "Like making sure the company creates products that help people. Like providing good jobs for thousands of employees. Like using resources wisely and ethically." The conversation continued as they approached the gleaming Caldwell Innovations headquarters. The children's excitement built as they entered the lobby, their eyes wide at the futuristic design and interactive displays. "Mr. Caldwell, welcome," the security chief greeted them, clearly prepared for their arrival. "These must be your children." "Yes, this is Sophia and Gabriel. They're very excited to see what we do here. We've arranged for access to all the areas you requested, sir. And the robotics team is ready for your visit whenever you'd like to head down." "Thank you, Henry." Dominic turned to the twins. "Where would you like to start?" "The robotics lab where we build prototype machines. The AI center where we teach computers to think. Or my office at the top of the building with the best view of the city?" "Robots first," Gabriel said immediately. "Can we see everything?" Sophia asked. "Absolutely. We have all day." The tour was a rousing success. The robotics team had prepared demonstrations specifically for the children, showing them everything from tiny medical robots designed to deliver medications inside the human body to larger machines that could navigate complex terrain for search and rescue operations. Gabriel was in heaven, asking detailed technical questions that impressed even the senior engineers. Sophia, meanwhile, was drawn to the design aspects, fascinated by how form and function work together in the various prototypes. Her questions about why certain design choices were made revealed an artistic eye that could see beyond pure technical specifications. Throughout the morning, Dominic watched his children with growing wonder. They were so different from each other, yet equally brilliant in their own ways. Gabriel's analytical mind approached problems with logical precision, while Sophia saw patterns and connections that others missed. Together, they were an extraordinary pair, complementing each other's strengths. As they rode the elevator to the executive floor for lunch, Gabriel asked, "Will you teach me how to run a company someday?" The question caught Dominic by surprise. "Is that something you'd be interested in?" Gabriel nodded vigorously. "I want to build robots that help people. Like the ones that can go into dangerous places so humans don't have to. If that's what you want to pursue, I'd be honored to teach you everything I know." "What about you, Sophia?" Dominic asked, turning to his daughter. "Any interest in the business world?" She considered this seriously. "I like the creative parts. Like how you decide what problems to solve and how to design solutions. But I don't think I'd want to be a CEO. It seems like you have to spend a lot of time in meetings instead of actually making things." Dominic laughed. "That's very perceptive. Being CEO does involve a lot of meetings. Is that why you weren't around when we were little?" Gabriel asked suddenly. "Because you had too many meetings." The question landed like a punch to Dominic's stomach, all the more painful for its innocent delivery. Before he could formulate a response, the elevator doors opened to reveal Miranda Porter standing in the hallway, clearly waiting for them. "Dominic," she said, her voice coolly professional. "I thought we had agreed to meet this afternoon to discuss transition plans." "Miranda," he acknowledged, instinctively moving slightly in front of the children. "Our meeting is scheduled for 4 o'clock. I'm in the middle of something personal right now." Her gaze shifted to the twins, her expression unreadable. "So I see. These must be the children I've heard so much about." Sophia and Gabriel studied her with matching intensity, clearly recognizing who she was. "You're the lady from the news," Sophia said. "The one who was going to marry our dad." "I am Miranda Porter, yes," she replied, her tone softening slightly. "And you must be Sophia. You look very much like your mother." "Thank you," Sophia said, though her expression remained wary. "She's a famous photographer." "Is she?" Miranda's smile didn't reach her eyes. "How lovely." Gabriel had been studying Miranda with a serious expression. "Did you really hide our mom's messages from our dad?" he asked suddenly. Dominic tensed, prepared to intervene, but Miranda maintained her composure. "Adult relationships are complicated," she said. "Sometimes things happen that seem unfair from the outside. But there are always multiple perspectives to consider." "That's not really an answer," Gabriel observed. "No, it's not," Miranda agreed. "But it's all I have to offer at the moment." She turned back to Dominic. "I'll see you at 4. Enjoy your family time." As she walked away, Dominic guided the children toward his office, feeling a mixture of relief and tension. "I'm sorry about that," he said once they were safely behind his closed door. "Why is she still here?" Sophia asked. "Mom said she was leaving the company." "It's complicated," Dominic said, echoing Miranda's non-answer. "Sometimes when people leave important jobs, it takes time to transition their responsibilities to others." "Do you still love her?" Gabriel's question was direct and unavoidable. "No," Dominic answered honestly. "I don't think I ever did, not really. I respected her abilities and we worked well together, but that's not the same as love." "Did you love our mom?" Sophia asked, returning to her question from the park days earlier. Dominic met her gaze. "Yes. Very much." "Do you still?" Gabriel pressed. "That's an even more complicated question," Dominic said carefully. "Your mom and I have been apart for 9 years. We're different people now. But I have tremendous respect and admiration for her, especially seeing what an amazing job she's done raising both of you. The children seemed satisfied with this answer, at least temporarily, and the conversation shifted to lunch plans. But Dominic knew these questions would return. Children had an uncanny ability to sense the emotional currents between adults, and these two were exceptionally perceptive. The afternoon continued with visits to other departments, including the AI research lab where Dominic's most cutting-edge projects were being developed. The twins were fascinated by demonstrations of machine learning algorithms that could recognize patterns in medical imaging, predict traffic congestion, and even compose music based on emotional parameters. "This is like my robot, but way smarter," Gabriel observed as they watched an AI system learn to navigate an obstacle course in real time. "The principles are the same," Dominic agreed. "Your robot uses sensors to detect colors and make decisions. These systems just do it on a much larger scale, with more complex decisions." "Could an AI be programmed to be a parent?" Sophia asked suddenly. The question hung in the air, loaded with implications Dominic wasn't sure his daughter fully understood. "A machine could be programmed to perform certain caretaking functions," he answered carefully. "But parenting is about more than just tasks and decisions. It's about love, connection, understanding. Human qualities that we haven't been able to replicate in machines. So you have to be human to be a real parent," Sophia concluded. "Yes, but more than that, you have to be present," Dominic said, the truth of it hitting him as he spoke. "Not just physically, but emotionally. Available. Engaged. That's something I'm still learning." Sophia nodded, seemingly satisfied with his answer. But the exchange left Dominic thoughtful as they continued their tour. At exactly 3:55, his assistant appeared, looking apologetic. "Mr. Caldwell, Ms. Porter is waiting in the conference room for your 4 o'clock. Dominic had nearly forgotten about the meeting. "Thank you, Jessica. Please tell her I'll be there shortly." He turned to the twins. "I need to take care of something for about 30 minutes. Would you two be okay in my office with Jessica? She can set you up with anything you need." "Is the meeting with that lady?" Gabriel asked. "Yes, it is. It's important for the company." The twins exchanged a look, that silent communication he'd noticed before. "We'll be fine," Sophia assured him. "Your office has a cool view. And Jessica said there are snacks," Gabriel added pragmatically. Dominic left them in his assistant's capable hands and headed to the conference room, steeling himself for what would undoubtedly be a difficult conversation. As he expected, Miranda was perfectly composed, a stack of folders neatly arranged before her. "Thank you for making time in your busy schedule," she said as he entered. "Let's keep this professional, Miranda." "Of course. That's all we ever really were, isn't it? Professional." The bitterness in her voice was barely detectable, but present. "I've prepared a comprehensive transition plan for my responsibilities. The board has approved a generous separation package, and my legal team has drafted a mutual non-disparagement agreement for your review." Dominic took the folder she slid across the table. "Thank you. I'll have my team review it. The company in Hong Kong has confirmed my starting date. I'll be leaving the country in 3 weeks. That's sooner than expected." "I see no reason to prolong the inevitable," Miranda said, her voice clinically detached. "The sooner we complete this transition, the better for all parties." Dominic nodded, relieved that she was being practical despite the circumstances. "I agree. Is there anything else we need to discuss?" "Just one thing." Miranda met his gaze directly. "Those children are remarkable. Intelligent, perceptive, clearly well raised." "Yes, they are. I won't insult your intelligence by claiming I did you a favor 9 years ago. But I will say this, the man you were then wasn't ready to be a father. You were single-minded, driven, focused exclusively on your ambitions. That doesn't excuse. I'm not looking for excuses, she interrupted. I'm offering an observation. The Dominic Caldwell I met 9 years ago would have seen children as an obstacle to his goals. The man sitting before me now sees them as a priority. Perhaps time has changed you more than you realize. Her insight was uncomfortable precisely because it contained a kernel of truth. Would he have embraced fatherhood 9 years ago with the same commitment he felt now? Or would he have seen it as a complication, a distraction from his ambitions? The difference, he said finally, is that 9 years ago, I would have had the chance to grow into fatherhood alongside them. To learn and adapt as they grew. You took that opportunity from all of us. Yes, Miranda acknowledged, surprising him with her directness. I did. And I've lost you because of it. The simple statement held more genuine emotion than he'd heard from her in their entire relationship. We should focus on the transition now, Dominic said after a moment of uncomfortable silence. For the sake of the company and everyone who depends on it. The meeting concluded with professional efficiency, both of them falling back on the business protocols that had defined their relationship from the beginning. When Dominic returned to his office, he found the twins engrossed in a virtual reality demonstration Jessica had set up for them. Dad, this is amazing! Gabriel exclaimed, waving his hands to manipulate virtual objects in space only he could see. It's like being inside a computer. Your company makes the coolest things, Sophia agreed, equally entranced by whatever she was seeing through her VR headset. Dad. Both of them were calling him Dad now, the word seeming to come naturally after just a few days together. The title felt like a gift he hadn't earned yet, but desperately wanted to deserve. I'm glad you're enjoying it, he said, watching them with a mixture of joy and lingering guilt from his conversation with Miranda. But it's almost time to head home. Your mom will be waiting. The drive back to Brooklyn was quieter than the morning journey, the twins tired from their day of exploration and excitement. As they approached Eliza's brownstone, Gabriel asked from the back seat, when are you moving into your new house? The one near us, Sophia clarified, as if Dominic might have forgotten mentioning it. In about 2 weeks, he answered. There are some renovations happening first. Will we get our own rooms there? Gabriel asked. For when we visit? The question caught Dominic off guard. He had indeed instructed the designers to create bedrooms specifically for the twins, but hadn't discussed this with Eliza yet. That's the plan, he said carefully. But we'll need to work out with your mom when and how often you'll stay with me. She'll say yes, Sophia said confidently. She always says it's important for us to have new experiences. I hope you're right, Dominic replied, making a mental note to broach the subject with Eliza soon. Eliza was waiting on the stoop when they arrived, her camera bag slung over her shoulder. She looked tired but pleased as the children bounded from the car to greet her. Mom, Dad's company makes robots that can go inside your body to deliver medicine. Gabriel announced without preamble. And AI systems that can predict traffic patterns, Sophia added. We got to see everything. Everything? Eliza raised an eyebrow at Dominic over their heads. Most things, he amended. The age-appropriate versions, at least. Did you thank your father for the tour? Thank you, Dad, they chorused, then immediately resumed their excited recounting of the day's adventures as they headed inside. Dominic and Eliza remained on the stoop, the evening air cool between them. They had a great time, he said. Thank you for trusting me with them. How did it feel? Being called Dad all day. Incredible. Terrifying. Like the most important title I've ever had. Eliza smiled, a genuine expression that softened her features. It is. Nothing else comes close. Eliza, I've been thinking about how we move forward with custody arrangements, visitation schedules, all of that. I assumed we'd need to formalize something soon. The house I bought, I've had rooms designed specifically for them. I was hoping that once it's ready, they might be able to stay overnight sometimes. Weekends, perhaps. If you're comfortable with that. Eliza considered this. Let's start with one night. See how they adjust. They've never slept anywhere without me except for school trips. Of course. Whatever pace works best for them. And you, she added. This is an adjustment for you too, Dominic. Parenting isn't something you can master in a few days or even months. It's a lifetime learning curve. I'm beginning to understand that. From inside the house came the sound of the children's excited voices, still cataloging the wonders they'd seen that day. You should come in, Eliza said. Have dinner with us. They clearly have more to tell you about your own company. The invitation felt significant, a small step towards something new. I'd like that. Thank you. As they entered the brownstone, the noise and warmth enveloping them, Dominic felt a sense of rightness that had been missing from his carefully constructed life. This wasn't the future he had planned, but it was infinitely better than the one he'd been building without even realizing what was missing. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of activity. Dominic balanced his company responsibilities with daily visits to Brooklyn, becoming a regular fixture at the children's school events, extracurricular activities, and family dinners. The transition was not without challenges. Board members questioning his new priorities, investors nervous about his shifting focus, the ongoing complications of Miranda's departure, but none of these corporate concerns seemed insurmountable compared to the importance of building relationships with his children. The house in Brooklyn was coming together beautifully. He'd hired a designer who specialized in family homes rather than the minimalist luxury he'd previously preferred, and the result was a warm, inviting space where children could both play and grow. The twins' rooms had been designed with their specific interests in mind, Gabriel's featuring built-in workspaces for his robotics projects, Sophia's including a mini darkroom and display areas for her photographs. On the Friday before the house was completed, Dominic attended a parent-teacher conference with Eliza, sitting beside her as their children's teachers discussed academic progress, social development, and future potential. The simple act of being introduced as the children's father filled him with a pride unlike anything he'd experienced in his business career. Sophia shows exceptional artistic talent, her art teacher explained, showing them a portfolio of her recent work. Her ability to capture emotion through composition is quite advanced for her age. And Gabriel's aptitude for mathematics and physics is placing him well ahead of grade level, added the science teacher. We're exploring advanced placement options for next year. Driving home from the conference, Eliza seemed thoughtful. It's strange, she said finally. All these years, I've done these meetings alone. Taking notes, asking questions, making decisions. Having you there felt intrusive? Dominic suggested when she hesitated. No, she corrected. It felt right. Like something that had been missing suddenly clicked into place. The admission hung between them, loaded with implications neither seemed ready to address directly. The house is finished, Dominic said after a moment. Would you and the children like to see it tomorrow? Maybe stay for dinner? I think they'd love that. They've been speculating wildly about what their rooms look like. And you? Would you like to see it too? Eliza glanced at him, a small smile playing at her lips. I'm curious about what kind of home Dominic Caldwell would create for children he's just getting to know. One designed for who they are now and who they might become, he answered. Not just a place to stay, but a place to grow. The following day, the four of them stood outside the Brooklyn brownstone that would be Dominic's new home. It was similar in style to Eliza's, but larger, with a recently restored facade that honored the building's historic character while updating it for modern living. It's huge, Gabriel observed as Dominic unlocked the front door. It's actually very modest by Dominic's standards, Eliza commented with a hint of teasing. His Manhattan apartment could fit 3 of these inside it. But this one has character, Dominic replied. And it's in Brooklyn, close to you. The children barely heard this exchange, having already rushed inside to explore their new part-time home. Their excited exclamations echoed through the rooms as they discovered each thoughtfully designed space, the kitchen with its large central island perfect for family meals, the living room with comfortable seating arranged for conversation rather than formal entertaining, the backyard garden with space for outdoor games and quiet reading alike. "Dad! My room has a robot workstation," Gabriel shouted from upstairs. "And mine has a darkroom." Sophia's voice joined her brother's. "Come see." Dominic and Eliza followed more slowly, giving the children time for their initial exploration. "You've done an amazing job with this," Eliza said as they climbed the stairs. "It feels like a home, not a showcase." That was the goal. I wanted them to feel comfortable here, like it was designed with them in mind. It clearly was. As they reached the upper floor, the twins dragged them from room to room, pointing out every perfect detail of their personal spaces. Gabriel's room featured built-in shelving for his robot components, a workbench with proper lighting, and wall space designed to display his science fair medals and certificates. Sophia's included not just the promised darkroom, but also gallery-style lighting for her photographs, a reading nook by the window, and a desk perfectly positioned to capture the natural light she preferred for sketching. "How did you know exactly what we would want?" Sophia asked, clearly amazed. "I paid attention," Dominic answered simply. "To what you like, what you talk about, what makes you excited. And I had some help from designers who specialize in creating spaces for children." "It's perfect," Gabriel declared, already arranging his robotics kit on his new workbench. "There's one more room I'd like you to see," Dominic said. "It's down the hall." He led them to a space that had been designed as a family room. Unlike the more formal living room downstairs, this was clearly meant for comfortable togetherness. A large sectional sofa facing a state-of-the-art entertainment system, bookshelves filled with both children's and adults' titles, a table perfect for board games or shared projects. "This is for all of us," he explained. "For movie nights, game nights, or just hanging out together." "Can we have a movie night tonight?" Gabriel asked immediately. "If your mother approves," Dominic replied, looking to Eliza. "I think that sounds like a wonderful housewarming," she agreed. The evening that followed was everything Dominic had hoped for when designing the house. They prepared dinner together in the kitchen, the twins helping with age-appropriate tasks while music played softly in the background. They ate at the dining table, conversation flowing naturally about school, work, plans for the weekend ahead. After dinner, they moved to the family room for a movie selected by group vote, complete with popcorn and comfortable togetherness on the sectional sofa. It was simple, ordinary family time, the kind Dominic had never experienced in his own childhood of boarding schools and formal family obligations, the kind he'd never realized he was missing in his adult life of business deals and strategic relationships. Watching his children laugh at the movie, seeing Eliza relaxed beside them, feeling part of this small unit he'd helped create but was only now beginning to know, it filled a space inside him he hadn't known was empty. When the movie ended, Gabriel was asleep against his shoulder, and Sophia was fighting to keep her eyes open. "We should get them home," Eliza said softly. "They could stay," Dominic suggested. "Their rooms are ready. You could stay too, there's a guest room with its own bathroom." Eliza considered this. "They don't have any of their things here yet. No clothes, no toothbrushes." "I thought of that," Dominic admitted. "There are new toothbrushes in the bathrooms, pajamas in their dresser drawers, everything they might need for an overnight stay. Just in case." "You really did think of everything." "I tried to. But if you're not comfortable with it yet, I understand." Eliza studied him for a long moment, then looked at their half-asleep children. "Let's ask them. It should be their choice." Gently waking Gabriel and drawing Sophia's attention, Eliza presented the option. "Would you two like to sleep here tonight, in your new rooms? Or would you rather go home to our house?" "Here." Gabriel said immediately, suddenly wide awake. "Can we, Mom? Please?" Sophia was more thoughtful. Do we have school stuff for Monday? No school on Monday, Eliza reminded her. Teacher Development Day. Then I want to stay too, Sophia decided. To try out my new bed. It's settled then, Eliza said with a small smile. Our first sleepover at Dad's. The simple phrase carried enormous weight. Our first sleepover at Dad's. As if there would be many more to follow. As if this new arrangement was becoming real, solid, permanent. After the children were settled in their new rooms, Gabriel falling asleep almost instantly, Sophia reading for a while before her eyes grew too heavy, Dominic and Eliza found themselves alone in the kitchen, sharing a quiet cup of tea. Thank you, he said simply. For trusting me with them. They're your children too, Eliza replied. And you've proven over these past weeks that you're committed to them. That's all I needed to see. I am committed. Completely. They've become the center of my world in a way I never imagined possible. Children have that effect, Eliza said with a small smile. They rearrange your priorities without even trying. It's not just them, Dominic said, meeting her gaze directly. Seeing you with them, watching how you've raised them, the mother you've become, it's made me see you differently too. Dominic. I'm not expecting anything, Eliza. I know we have a long road ahead, figuring out how to co-parent, how to build this new family structure. But I want you to know that my feelings for you never really went away. They were buried under ambition and distraction, but meeting you again, seeing the amazing woman you've become. It's woken something in me I thought was long dead. Eliza was quiet for a long moment. 9 years is a long time, she said finally. We're different people now. I know. That's what makes it more meaningful. I'm not drawn to a memory or an idea of who you were. I'm drawn to who you are now, strong, talented, fiercely protective of our children, uncompromising in your principles. And I barely know who you are now, Eliza countered. The glimpses I've seen are promising. You're more thoughtful, more grounded than you were. But building a relationship on top of co-parenting is complicated. I'm not asking for anything right now. Just acknowledging what I feel, and leaving space for what might develop naturally between us as we navigate this new chapter. Eliza nodded slowly. Space. Time. Those I can give. That's enough, Dominic said, meaning it. For now, that's more than enough. The following morning brought a new kind of chaos as the twins explored their new breakfast options, tested every feature of their bathrooms, and generally behaved like children experiencing an exciting adventure. Dominic, who had always valued his precisely ordered mornings, found himself embracing the beautiful disruption of family life. Can we have pancakes? Gabriel asked, peering into the refrigerator. With chocolate chips. I don't know if we have chocolate chips, Dominic began, only to have Eliza reach past him to a cupboard he didn't even know had been stocked. The designer asked for a list of their favorite foods, she explained, pulling out a bag of chocolate chips. Apparently she was very thorough. The simple breakfast preparation became a family activity, with Gabriel measuring ingredients, Sophia mixing the batter, and all four of them gathered around the kitchen island as Dominic flipped pancakes on the new griddle. This is way better than your old apartment, Sophia observed as they ate. That place felt like a museum. How do you know what my old apartment was like? Dominic asked, surprised. We Googled you, remember? Gabriel explained between bites. There was a magazine article about the Bachelor Billionaire's Manhattan Palace or something. It had pictures. The article said your apartment was a study in monochromatic minimalism reflecting the focused mind of a tech visionary, Sophia quoted with perfect recall. It looked boring. Dominic laughed, both at her assessment and the realization that his children had thoroughly researched him before they'd even met. It was boring. I just didn't know it until now. After breakfast, the day unfolded with the relaxed rhythm of family time. They played board games, worked together on Gabriel's latest robot upgrade, and reviewed Sophia's most recent photographs. Eliza and Dominic moved around each other with increasing comfort, finding a natural co-parenting dynamic that felt surprisingly easy despite its newness. In the afternoon, as the children became engrossed in a movie they discovered in Dominic's collection, he found a moment alone with Eliza in the kitchen. "I've been thinking about formalizing our custody arrangement," he said carefully. "Not because I don't trust our verbal agreements, but because I want to make sure everything is clear and secure for the children." "What are you proposing?" "Shared legal custody, with you maintaining primary physical custody. Regular visitation for me, including weekends and some overnights when the children are comfortable with it. Flexibility for special occasions, holidays, school events. And complete financial support for all their needs, of course." Eliza studied him. "That sounds reasonable. But I want to be clear about something. I don't need or want your money for myself. The children's expenses, yes, but I've supported myself for 9 years, and I'll continue to do so. I understand and respect that. But I'd like to establish trust funds for their education and future needs, if you're agreeable." "Of course. That makes sense. And perhaps we could discuss the possibility of you reducing your workload if you wanted to. Not because you have to, but because you'd have the option to be more selective about assignments, to focus on the projects that truly interest you." Eliza's expression softened. "That's thoughtful. My career has always involved some compromises because of financial necessity. Having more freedom to choose would be a gift." "Then consider it done. My lawyer can draft the agreements this week, and you can have your own attorney review them." "I will." Eliza hesitated, then added, "Dominic, this is working better than I expected. The transition, the co-parenting, all of it. I was prepared for complications, for tension, for the children to struggle with the adjustment. But they seem to be thriving with you in their lives. They're remarkable children. Adaptable, intelligent, open-hearted. You've raised them to be secure in themselves and in your love. That's made all of this possible." "Perhaps," Eliza acknowledged. "Or perhaps they've just been waiting for their father all along, without even knowing it." The simple statement carried profound meaning for both of them. Acknowledgement of what had been lost, appreciation for what had been found, and hope for what might yet develop in the complex, beautiful family they were building together. What does family mean to you? Is it defined by biology, by love, by commitment, or by some combination of these elements? Share your thoughts on what makes a family in the comments below. In the weeks that followed, a new routine began to emerge. The children spent weekdays with Eliza, weekends with Dominic, and the four of them often came together for Sunday dinners that became a cherished tradition. Legal custody arrangements were formalized with minimal drama, giving both parents clear rights and responsibilities while putting the children's well-being at the center of every decision. Dominic's transition into fatherhood continued to transform both his personal and professional life. At Caldwell Innovations, he implemented structural changes that allowed him more flexibility while ensuring the company's continued growth. He appointed a new COO, not a potential spouse this time, but a longtime colleague with complementary skills and a similar vision for the company's future. The board, initially concerned about his shifted priorities, gradually accepted the new arrangement as they saw that his strategic thinking remained sharp, perhaps even enhanced by his broader perspective on life. The most significant changes, however, were internal. Dominic found himself measuring success differently, valuing moments with his children above business victories, finding more satisfaction in Gabriel's successful science project than in quarterly earnings reports. The relentless ambition that had driven him for decades didn't disappear, but it transformed into something more balanced, more meaningful, more connected to the legacy he truly wanted to leave. One Tuesday evening in late May, about 6 weeks after Dominic had first met the twins, he received an unexpected call from Eliza. "Is everything okay?" he asked immediately, concern evident in his voice. Weeknight calls weren't part of their established pattern. "Of course," Dominic said without hesitation. "I'd be honored." There's a complication, Eliza continued. They've specifically asked us both to attend. Together. As their parents. I don't see that as a complication. It will be the first time we're publicly presented as co-parents to the school community. There will be questions, attention. The other parents all know me as a single mother. This will change the narrative significantly. Dominic hadn't considered this aspect. For him, acknowledging the twins as his children had been a private matter, a family revelation. But of course it had broader implications, especially for Eliza who had built a life and identity in this community. If you're uncomfortable with it, I understand, he said carefully. It's not about my comfort, Eliza replied. It's about being prepared. Some people will be curious, others judgmental. The children will be watching how we handle it. Then we'll handle it together. United front. Exactly. There was a smile in her voice now. That's why I called. To make sure we're on the same page. Always. For them. When Friday morning arrived, Dominic found himself experiencing an unfamiliar sensation, nervousness. He had delivered keynote addresses to thousands, negotiated billion-dollar deals, faced hostile boards and skeptical investors, all without this fluttering anxiety he now felt at the prospect of standing before a classroom of 8-year-olds and their parents. You look terrified, Eliza observed with amusement as they walked toward the school entrance together. She was carrying her photography equipment, prepared to share her own career journey alongside his. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who knows you well. Her casual implication that she did, in fact, know him well created a warm feeling he didn't want to examine too closely. They're third graders, Dominic, not venture capitalists. They'll be impressed by anything that sounds vaguely like a video game or robot. That's exactly what makes it intimidating. Adult audiences have predictable interests and concerns. Children are wildly unpredictable. True. But they're also forgiving and easily entertained. Just be yourself, the version of yourself you are with Sophia and Gabriel. Her advice steadied him, reminding him that he did, in fact, know how to connect with children now. At least with his children. Perhaps that skill would translate. They signed in at the school office, receiving visitor badges that somehow made the situation feel more official. As they walked toward the twins' classroom, Eliza touched his arm lightly. Just so you know, we're going to get some looks. Not everyone is going to understand our situation. Let them look, Dominic replied, surprising himself with how little he cared about others' opinions now. We know the truth. The children know the truth. Nothing else matters. Eliza's smile warmed him more than any business success ever had. The classroom was colorful chaos when they entered, 24 third graders excitedly preparing for the day's special visitors. Sophia and Gabriel spotted them immediately, their faces lighting up with matching expressions of pride and excitement. Dad! Mom! You came together. Gabriel announced loudly, drawing the attention of everyone in the room. Of course we did, Dominic replied, kneeling to receive his son's enthusiastic hug. We wouldn't miss this. Their teacher, Ms. Abernathy, approached with a professional smile that didn't quite hide her curiosity. Mr. Caldwell, I'm so pleased you could join us today. The children have been very excited since Gabriel and Sophia announced you would be coming. Thank you for having me. This is my first career day. Mine too, technically, Eliza added with a smile. In previous years I've just been Sophia and Gabriel's mom who takes pictures. This is my first official presentation as a professional photographer. Well, we're honored to have both of you, Ms. Abernathy said, glancing between them with undisguised interest. Around the room, other parent volunteers were setting up for their presentations while casting curious looks in their direction. The morning unfolded better than Dominic could have anticipated. Each parent took turns describing their profession, showing tools of their trade, and answering children's often hilarious questions. Eliza's presentation captivated the class with stunning photographs from her assignments around the world, her explanation of how she captured emotions and stories through her lens, and her interactive demonstration that got the children experimenting with composition and lighting. When it was Dominic's turn, he surprised himself by feeling completely at ease. He spoke about artificial intelligence in terms the children could understand, demonstrated a simple robot that responded to voice commands, and explained how technology could help people solve problems in new ways. "Does your company make the robot dogs that can do backflips?" one child asked. "No, but we make some of the systems that help those robots think and learn," Dominic explained. "Are you really a billionaire?" asked another child with typical third-grade directness. Dominic smiled. "My company is worth a lot of money, yes. But what makes me feel richest is having a family I love and work that helps make the world better." The sincerity of his answer seemed to satisfy even the most skeptical 8-year-olds. The truly remarkable moment, however, came during the question period when a little girl with pigtails raised her hand and asked, "Are you Sophia and Gabriel's real dad?" Because they used to not have one and now they do. A hush fell over the classroom. Ms. Abernathy looked mortified, clearly about to intervene, but Dominic caught her eye and shook his head slightly. "That's a very good question," he said, looking to Eliza, who gave him a small nod of encouragement. "Yes, I am their biological father. But I didn't know about them until very recently because of some complicated grown-up mistakes. I missed a lot of their early years, which makes me very sad. But now I get to be part of their lives, and that makes me the luckiest person in the world." Sophia and Gabriel beamed at his answer, their expressions a mixture of pride and belonging that made his chest tight with emotion. "So you and Ms. Reyes aren't married?" the same child persisted. "Emma," Ms. Abernathy warned. "It's okay," Eliza interjected. "These are natural questions children have." She addressed the class directly. "Mr. Caldwell and I were together a long time ago. Then we were apart for many years. Now we're working together to be the best parents we can be for Sophia and Gabriel. Families come in all different shapes and arrangements, and what matters most is that children are loved and supported. Like my friend Jason who has 2 moms," one boy contributed. "Or my cousin who lives with his grandma," added another child. Just like that, the potentially awkward moment transformed into a valuable classroom discussion about diverse family structures, with Sophia and Gabriel participating proudly rather than feeling singled out or embarrassed. By the time career day concluded, Dominic and Eliza had been seamlessly integrated into the school community's understanding as co-parents. There were curious glances and whispered conversations among the adults, certainly, but the open, straightforward approach they'd taken had diffused much of the potential drama. "That went better than I expected," Eliza admitted as they walked out together. The children had remained at school for the rest of the day, proudly waving goodbye to their parents from the classroom door. "You were right about being prepared and presenting a united front," Dominic said. "The children seemed comfortable with how we handled it." "They were proud," Eliza corrected. "Proud of you, specifically. Did you see their faces when you were speaking? Like you hung the moon and stars." "I noticed. It's terrifying how much power we have to hurt or heal them with simple words and actions." "Welcome to parenthood," Eliza said with a gentle smile. "That feeling never goes away." As they reached the sidewalk outside the school, an awkward moment arose as they prepared to part ways, Eliza to a photo shoot, Dominic to the office. "Thank you for including me today," he said finally. "It was the children's request. But I'm glad you came. You're good with them, Dominic. Better than I expected you would be. I'm learning. Faster than most." Eliza hesitated, then added, "Would you like to join us for dinner tonight? The children will want to rehash every moment of career day, and they'd love having you there for it." "I'd like that very much." As Dominic watched her walk away, camera bag slung over her shoulder, he felt something shifting between them, a softening, a tentative rebuilding of trust, perhaps even the first fragile shoots of something that might one day grow into more than co-parenting. What would you sacrifice for a second chance with someone you once loved? Would you reorganize your entire life, redefine your priorities, become a different person? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That evening's dinner became another memory stored in Dominic's rapidly growing collection of family moments. The twins enthusiastically recounted career day from their perspective, detailing their classmates' reactions and the newfound respect they'd apparently earned for having a robot dad and photo mom. Jason Wang said his dad just sells insurance, which is boring, Gabriel reported. He said my dad makes stuff from science fiction movies. And Emma Peterson kept asking if you were really my dad because we don't look exactly alike, Sophia added. But I told her we have the same eyes, and Ms. Abernathy said that's definitely true. Well, you both have your mother's creativity and intelligence, Dominic noted, which is much more important than physical resemblance. But we have your eyes, Gabriel insisted, and Mom says I have your stubborn chin. Determined chin, Eliza corrected with a smile. We call it determined, not stubborn. The easy banter continued through dinner and into the evening as the four of them cleared the table together, a domestic harmony that felt both new and somehow familiar, as if they were remembering rather than creating these family patterns. Later, after the children had gone to bed, Dominic and Eliza sat in her small backyard garden, the spring evening warm enough to be comfortable with just light jackets. They seem happy, Dominic observed. More settled than I expected with such a big change in their lives. Children are adaptable, Eliza replied. And they've wanted a father for so long. The reality of having you in their lives is fulfilling a need they've always felt but couldn't always express. What about you? Dominic asked, the question slipping out before he could reconsider it. How are you adapting to all this? Eliza was quiet for a moment, considering the question with characteristic thoughtfulness. It's complicated, she admitted finally. Professionally, it's been liberating. The financial support you're providing for the children has allowed me to be more selective with assignments, to focus on the work that matters to me artistically rather than just what pays the bills. I'm grateful for that freedom. And personally. She hesitated. It's strange having someone to share parenting decisions with after doing it alone for so long. Sometimes it feels like a relief, having another perspective, another set of hands. Other times it feels like an intrusion into a system I've carefully built. I never want to intrude, Dominic said quickly. I'm trying to follow your lead, to support rather than disrupt what you've created. I know. You've been remarkably respectful of the boundaries I've set. More than I expected, honestly. She gave him a small smile. The Dominic I knew 9 years ago wasn't exactly known for his patience or deference to others' needs. The Dominic you knew 9 years ago was an idiot who thought success was measured in acquisitions and stock prices. And now? Now I measure success in moments. Gabriel's face when his robot worked correctly. Sophia's pride showing me her photographs. The sound of their laughter. The feeling of being part of something more important than myself. Eliza studied him in the dim garden lighting. You really have changed. Not entirely, he admitted. I still love building the company, creating new technologies, solving complex problems. But the perspective has shifted. Those things are part of my life now, not the whole of it. Balance, Eliza observed. It suits you. What about you? Dominic asked. Have you found balance? Between being their mother and being Eliza the artist? I'm getting closer. For years, motherhood consumed everything. It had to. They were small, they needed me completely, and I was all they had. As they've grown more independent, I've been able to reclaim pieces of myself, to remember the photographer I was becoming before they arrived. Your work is extraordinary. I've been looking at your portfolio online. Have you now? Her tone was teasing but pleased. The series you did on urban isolation was exhibited at the Bowery Gallery, wasn't it? Last year? Eliza looked genuinely surprised. You've been doing your homework. I wanted to understand the life you built while I was busy chasing less important things. The admission hung between them, honest and vulnerable in a way their conversations rarely were. Eliza's expression softened, and for a moment, Dominic thought she might reach for his hand. Instead, she glanced at her watch. It's getting late. The children have swimming lessons early tomorrow. Of course. He stood, recognizing the gentle closure of the evening. Thank you for dinner. And for today. All of it. You're welcome, Dominic. For what it's worth, I think you're doing a good job. With the children. With all of this. It wasn't quite forgiveness, not exactly reconciliation, but it was acknowledgement. Progress. And for now, that was enough. The next morning brought an unwelcome disruption to the careful balance they'd been building. Dominic was in an early strategy meeting when his assistant interrupted with an urgent message. Sir, there's a situation that requires your immediate attention. It's regarding your children. Dominic's heart rate spiked instantly. Are they all right? Has there been an accident? No, sir. Nothing like that. But there's a news story breaking online. About you, Ms. Reyes, and the twins. Relief that the children weren't hurt was immediately replaced by concern about media exposure. He'd been careful to keep the children out of the public eye, knowing that his profile as a tech billionaire made them potentially interesting to the less scrupulous corners of the press. What kind of story? A gossip website has published photographs of you, Ms. Reyes, and the children at Career Day yesterday. The headline suggests a secret family that you've been hiding. Get me Eliza on the phone. And contact our media response team. I'll be in my office. Minutes later, he was looking at the offending article on his computer screen. The photographs weren't particularly invasive, just Dominic, Eliza, and the twins walking into the school together, but the headline was sensationalized. Tech billionaire's secret family revealed. Caldwell Innovations CEO Dominic Caldwell has been hiding twin children for years. His phone rang with Eliza's call. Have you seen it? She asked without preamble. I'm looking at it now. The facts are wrong, but the photos are harmless enough. The facts being wrong is what concerns me. They're implying you deliberately hid the children, that you've known about them all along. We can issue a correction. The damage is already spreading. The children's school has called. Apparently reporters are trying to get comments from school officials, other parents, even the children's classmates. Dominic felt a surge of protective anger. The children will be upset by this. They don't know yet. They're in swimming lessons. But they'll hear about it as soon as they're back with their class. Children talk. What do you want to do? Eliza was quiet for a moment. I think we need to get ahead of this. Issue a joint statement explaining the situation accurately. The basic facts, that you didn't know about them until recently, that we're now co-parenting successfully. But nothing that invades their privacy more than necessary. Agreed. I'll have my PR team draft something for our review immediately. And Dominic? I think we should pick them up from school early today. Together. Before the other children can bombard them with questions they're not prepared to answer. I'll clear my schedule. Meet you at the school at noon. The unified approach they took that day proved invaluable for helping the twins navigate their first experience with unwanted public attention. Together, Dominic and Eliza explained in age-appropriate terms why some people were interested in their family, answering questions truthfully while reassuring the children that the curiosity would soon pass. But why do they care about us? Gabriel asked as the four of them sat in Dominic's Brooklyn living room, having decided that his home offered more privacy than Eliza's more well-known address. Because your father is famous in the business world, Eliza explained gently. People are curious about his life, including his family. Will they always take our pictures? Sophia asked, clearly troubled by the concept. No, Dominic assured her. This attention will fade quickly. And we'll be careful about protecting your privacy going forward. The children seemed satisfied with these explanations, their natural resilience allowing them to process and move past the disruption more easily than either parent had feared. By evening, they were absorbed in normal activities, Gabriel programming his robot, Sophia organizing photographs, while Dominic and Eliza monitored the online response to their joint statement. The carefully worded explanation had been picked up by most reputable news sources, effectively countering the initial sensationalized story. Their honest, straightforward approach was being generally well received, with many commentators noting the mature handling of a complicated personal situation. I think we've contained it, Dominic observed as they sat at his kitchen island, laptops open before them. The narrative is shifting to focus on responsible co-parenting rather than scandal. For now, Eliza agreed. But this won't be the last time. Your profile makes all of us, potential targets for this kind of attention. I'm sorry. I never wanted to expose you or the children to this. It's not your fault. It's just the reality of who you are. She closed her laptop with a sigh. We'll adapt. The children are remarkably resilient. Like their mother. Eliza smiled at that. Necessity breeds resilience. Single parenthood is an excellent teacher of adaptation. You're not alone anymore, Dominic said quietly. Whatever comes, we'll handle it together. The simple promise held more weight than either of them acknowledged aloud. The media interest, as predicted, faded within days as newer, more sensational stories captured public attention. Life returned to the new normal they'd been establishing, with one significant difference: the forced transparency had eliminated any need for secrecy or explanation. The world now knew about Dominic's children, which paradoxically created more freedom for them to be seen together publicly without generating fresh interest. This newfound openness allowed for expanded family activities, trips to museums, outdoor concerts, weekend excursions to nearby beaches. Each shared experience strengthened the bonds between Dominic and his children, while also gradually rebuilding something between him and Eliza. Not the passionate romance of their youth, but something potentially more durable, a partnership based on mutual respect, shared priorities, and deepening trust. 3 months after Dominic had first learned about his children, Miranda Porter's departure from Caldwell Innovations was finally complete. Her new position in Hong Kong had been announced with appropriate corporate fanfare. The narrative carefully managed to present the separation as amicable and professionally motivated. Neither Dominic nor Miranda had publicly acknowledged the true reasons for their broken engagement or professional split. The morning of her final day, Dominic arrived at his office to find a small package on his desk with a handwritten note bearing Miranda's precise script. Dominic. As our professional relationship concludes, I find myself reflecting on choices made and paths not taken. Enclosed is something that perhaps should have reached you 9 years ago. Consider it my final act as your longest-serving executive, clearing the decks of old business before we both move forward. Inside the package was a sealed envelope, yellowed with age, addressed to Dominic in Eliza's handwriting. The postmark was dated 9 years earlier, just weeks after he had left for London. With a sense of foreboding, Dominic carefully opened the fragile envelope. Inside was a letter and a small black and white photograph, an ultrasound image showing tiny, developing twins. The letter was brief but devastating in its simple honesty. Dominic. I've been trying to reach you for weeks without success. Your assistant says you don't want to be disturbed by reminders of the life you left behind, which I suppose includes me. Perhaps this letter won't reach you either, but I have to try one more time. I'm pregnant. Twins, according to the doctor. I'm not writing to disrupt your new life or make demands. I simply believe you have the right to know. If you want to be involved in these children's lives, even from a distance, that door is open. If you choose not to be, I will understand and will not contact you again. Whatever you decide, I want you to know that I don't regret loving you, even if the ending hurt more than I could have imagined. Eliza. Dominic sat motionless, the letter in his hands, emotions washing over him in overwhelming waves. Grief for what might have been. Rage at Miranda's deliberate deception. Sorrow for the pain Eliza must have felt when he never responded. And somewhere beneath it all, gratitude that despite everything, he had found his way to his children eventually. Without conscious decision, he found himself dialing Eliza's number. Dominic? Is everything okay? Her voice held a note of concern. Their morning calls weren't part of the established routine. Miranda left something for me. A letter you sent, 9 years ago. With an ultrasound picture. Silence stretched between them. I never saw it, Eliza. I never knew. I believe you, she said finally. I've believed you since that first day in your office. I saw the shock in your eyes when I told you about the twins. If I had known. Don't, she interrupted gently. Don't go down that path, Dominic. We can't change what happened. We can only move forward from where we are now. Where are we, Eliza? What are we building here? It was the question that had been hovering unasked between them for months now, growing more insistent as their co-parenting evolved into something that felt increasingly like a family. I don't know, she admitted. Something unexpected. Something unplanned. Something good? Yes. The simple affirmation carried weight beyond its single syllable. Something very good. For the children. For both of us. I'd like to see you today. Not with the children, not for a custody discussion or schedule adjustment. Just you and me. Another pause, shorter this time. I have a shoot this morning, but I'm free after 2. Meet me at the pier. Where we used to watch the sunset when we first met. You remember that? Surprise colored her voice. I remember everything, Eliza. I just forgot what mattered for a while. That afternoon, as Dominic waited at the familiar pier overlooking the Hudson River, he felt a nervous anticipation he hadn't experienced in years. The setting was deliberately chosen. This had been their place in the early days of their relationship, where they'd shared dreams, planned futures, fallen in love against the backdrop of New York's most spectacular sunsets. He spotted her approaching, camera bag slung over her shoulder as always, her walk still carrying that confident grace he'd first noticed in a photography class they'd both attended almost a decade earlier. She'd been the talented student, he the business major fulfilling an arts requirement, completely unprepared for how a passionate photographer with a unique perspective on the world would change his life. This feels like stepping back in time, Eliza said as she joined him at the railing. In some ways, Dominic agreed. But we're different people now. Better people, I hope. Definitely better in my case. Still working on it in others. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, watching boats navigate the river before them. Finally, Dominic spoke. Finding that letter today made me realize something. We lost 9 years because of someone else's interference, but we've been given a second chance. Not just with the children, but potentially with each other. Eliza turned to face him directly. Dominic, we can't simply pick up where we left off. I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting we start something new. Something based on who we are now, not who we were then. Co-parents who are also, what? Dating? Friends first. Partners in raising our children. And then, if it feels right, maybe something more. At whatever pace makes sense. Eliza's expression was thoughtful, considering. The children would be affected by this. If we tried and it didn't work out, it would impact them. I know. That's why we'd need to be certain before taking any significant steps. Careful. Deliberate. Unlike our headlong rush the first time around. You're suggesting a slow, mature exploration of potential romance. Eliza's lips curved in amusement. That doesn't sound like the Dominic Caldwell who proposed after 3 months of dating. As I said, I've changed. Dominic smiled in return. Though some things remain the same. I still think you're the most remarkable woman I've ever known. I still feel more alive in your presence than anywhere else. And I still believe we could build something extraordinary together. Smoothly said, Eliza acknowledged. But I need more than beautiful words, Dominic. I need consistent actions over time. I need to trust that this isn't just an emotional reaction to finding your children, to rediscovering a part of your past. Fair enough. Let me prove it to you. Day by day, decision by decision. As they continued talking, the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, a backdrop to new possibilities being carefully, tentatively explored. No grand declarations, no dramatic gestures, just two people who had once loved each other completely, finding their way back to something that might, with time and patience, grow into a love even stronger than before. 1 year later. Dominic sat on the deck of the beach house, watching Sophia and Gabriel racing along the shore, their 9-year-old energy seemingly boundless in the summer sunshine. The past year had brought changes neither he nor Eliza could have predicted when she'd first walked into his office with news that would transform his life. Caldwell Innovations had not just survived but thrived under his restructured leadership approach. The company's focus had shifted somewhat, prioritizing technologies that improved human lives, medical applications, educational tools, environmental solutions, without abandoning the cutting-edge AI development that had built their reputation. The board had ultimately embraced this evolved vision, particularly as it continued to deliver strong financial results alongside positive social impact. More importantly, his relationship with his children had deepened into something precious and irreplaceable. He knew their favorite foods, their nighttime routines, their hopes and fears and dreams. He'd been there for Sophia's first major photography exhibition at her school, Gabriel's regional robotics championship, their joint birthday celebration that had brought together their now blended social circles. He had become, in every way that mattered, their father. Not just biologically, but emotionally, practically, completely. And then there was Eliza. Their careful, patient rebuilding had evolved gradually from co-parenting to friendship to something much deeper. They had taken their time, mindful of the children's needs and their own history, allowing trust to be reconstructed through consistent actions rather than rushing toward romantic reunion. 6 months of carefully separated lives with shared parenting responsibilities. 3 months of occasional dinners alone, conversations that stretched late into the evening after the children were asleep. 2 months of acknowledged attraction, tentative physical reconnection, rediscovery of what had once been so natural between them. 1 month of certainty, of knowing that what they were building was stronger than what they had lost, of planning a future together that honored their past while embracing new possibilities. What are you thinking about? Eliza's voice broke into his reverie as she joined him on the deck, camera in hand as always. She had been photographing the children from the beach, capturing their joy and freedom against the backdrop of endless ocean. Everything, Dominic answered honestly. How different life looks from this side of the past year. How grateful I am for second chances. Eliza settled beside him, her shoulder touching his comfortably. Second chances are rare. Most mistakes don't come with opportunity for correction. I know. That's what makes this so precious. Below them on the beach, the twins had stopped running and were now engaged in serious sandcastle construction, their heads bent together in concentration. They're happy, Eliza observed. Secure. Loved. Everything children should be. Dominic turned to her. And you? Are you happy? Eliza considered the question with characteristic thoughtfulness. I'm more than happy. I'm content, which is deeper. I have my work, which fulfills me creatively. I have the children, who challenge and amaze me daily. And I have you, which I never expected to be possible again. I don't deserve this second chance, Dominic said quietly. But I promise you, I will spend the rest of my life earning it. It's not about deserving, Eliza corrected gently. Life isn't a balance sheet of merits and demerits. It's about growth, healing, forgiveness. Offering second chances not because they're deserved but because they're needed. From the beach came excited calls as the children waved them down to inspect their sandcastle creation. Hand in hand, Dominic and Eliza descended the wooden steps to join their children, forming the family circle that had once seemed impossible. Later that evening, after the twins were asleep in their rooms, Dominic and Eliza sat on the deck beneath a star-filled sky. The small velvet box sat unopened between them on the table, its presence acknowledged but not yet addressed. "This isn't like last time," Dominic said finally. "I'm not the same man, and you're not the same woman. What I'm offering isn't the headlong rush of youth, but the considered choice of someone who has learned what matters most." "And what matters most?" Eliza asked, though the gentle smile suggested she already knew his answer. "Family. Not the abstract concept I once thought I understood, but the reality we've built together. You, me, Sophia, Gabriel. The four of us, facing whatever comes next as a unit. Even when what comes next includes teenage years." Eliza's teasing tone lightened the moment. "Especially then. I suspect we'll need each other's strength more than ever." Dominic reached for the box, opening it to reveal a ring that was nothing like the flashy diamond he'd once given her in their youth. This was something more personal, a band of warm gold holding a blue stone the exact shade of their children's eyes, his eyes, surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light like camera flashes. "It's not a proposal in the traditional sense," he explained. "We've already built something more binding than legal paperwork. But I would be honored if you would consider making it official. Not because we need it, but because I want the world to know that my greatest achievement isn't Caldwell Innovations or any technology I've created. It's finding my way back to you, to our children, to the family we were always meant to be." Eliza's eyes glistened in the starlight. "The photographer in me wants to capture this moment. The mother in me is thinking about how this will affect the children. And the woman in me. The one who never quite stopped loving you even when I thought I should, that part of me simply wants to say yes." "And which part wins?" "All of them." Eliza smiled through gathering tears. "They all say yes, Dominic. Yes to making official what we've already built. Yes to facing the future together. Yes to the family we were meant to be." As they sealed this new promise with a kiss, both were aware that their journey had been neither simple nor easy. There had been pain and loss, mistakes and consequences, years that could never be recovered. But there had also been growth and forgiveness, second chances and new beginnings. Most importantly, there had been two children who had somehow found their way to the family they deserved, a mother who had never wavered in her love and commitment, and a father who had learned that life's most precious achievements cannot be measured in billions, but in moments of connection with those who matter most. Life doesn't always give us second chances. When it does, how we respond reveals everything about who we truly are and what we truly value. Has someone in your life offered you an unexpected second chance? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to Echoes of the Heart with Dr. Collins for more powerful narratives about family, redemption, and the choices that define our lives. New episodes every day that will make you laugh, cry, and reflect on what matters most.